It's season 2, episode 7 of the Hall of Fame show. And there's not a lot of Hall of Fame news, but Evan Nolan, has that ever stopped us?
No, nothing will stop us, my friend. We are unstoppable.
We definitely are. There's not even a lot of passings in the world. The Basketball Hall of Fame... go ahead.
I was going to say, and even the beige mistress is quiet this week.
Well, perhaps she's just been plotting something really big, and we won't even know what's coming. I was asking you if we could sort of look at something, and I don't think we're going to really get to it, because not a lot of people have talked their way out of the Hall of Fame. That I thought might have been a sort of a nice little topic, but then when we did our little pre-show, because who knows, we actually prepped some of these things a little bit, 5 minutes. It's something. It's prep. It counts.
You sent me an email, or a message through Twitter, 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
What you wanted to talk about.
That's true. That's true.
That's prep.
It is prep. Well, for us, it's major prep. But it sort of turned out that, you know what, maybe we can save that a little bit later and then touch on that. I think with that one individual, maybe we'll touch on it a little bit. Because... Actually, I'll do that right now, if that's all right. Tim Hardaway, the Basketball Hall of Fame, is at some point going to announce their finals. Actually, not at some point. It's going to happen when they do the All-Star Game. So during the festivities, which I believe is being condensed into just one day this year, they'll announce the candidates, and Tim Hardaway is a possibility. And Hardaway is a guy who I don't see becoming a finalist. It's going to take a long time. And for those who aren't aware, Hardaway is a 5-time All-Star, former All-NBA selection. And based on the bar that the Naismith Hall has set, he could be in, he could be out. It's not really like when we discuss Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling should be in, but it's his mouth that kept him out. We can agree, right?
Yeah, and I brought up beforehand, there's I can't remember who it was, came out of the list of people eligible for Hall of Fame from each of what we now have baseball era, which would be today's game, which is 1988 to now, the modern baseball era, which was 70 to 87, Golden Days, which was 50 to 69, and early baseball, which is pre-1949, and they came up with a list of who the greatest players at each position who would be on the bench for those teams who are not in the Hall of Fame. And by all the measures, out of all those people not in the Hall of Fame, Roger Clemens is number one.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, by far, is Roger Clemens head and shoulders above everyone else. Again, taking the steroid stuff out of it. Number two, by a huge percentage, 15, 20% is Curt Schilling. And then three is Kevin Brown, just to show you the big. Kevin Brown and Rick Russell are the next two guys on the list if you go that way. So there's no question that Schilling should be in, but for his mouth. And let's not underestimate the negative press from defrauding the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. The full name of that state, by the way.
I didn't know that. So I look, and I thought maybe we could look at Hardaway right now, because there's a very good chance he's not going to be a finalist, and we're probably not going to talk about him as a snub, because again, he's a bubble candidate, mouth or no mouth. And for those who are not aware, this actually, I brought it up so we can look at verbatim what he said in the interview 2007. And this wasn't just a local interview. Well, actually it was, but it was by Dan Le Batard, who had, was he with ESPN then? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Was he? Okay.
In 2007?
Yeah.
Maybe. When did PTI start?
Oh, God, I don't know.
You know?
No. I'm not sure. But either way, he was on his, if he wasn't at ESPN, he was on his way.
PTI started October of 2001. So.
Oh, okay.
My goodness. So because he was a panelist on that fairly, I feel like towards the beginning of that whole thing. So
okay, so he had a national profile.
Yeah.
All right. So what Hardaway said, and just again, this is this isn't one of those things where you can say, well, geez, well, for 2007, and you look at it from a 2021 eye, no, this was pretty bad. So putting it into the historical context, at that point in time, John Amici had put out his book, and he's a former NBA player who came out as gay. He didn't come out as gay as a player, and by this point, I believe Amici was already out, but I think he was doing the press junket, so he was probably out for a few years, I think. So I might be off on that. But here is Hardaway's quote: "You know I hate gay people, so I let it be known. I don't like gay people, and I don't like to be around gay people. I am homophobic. I don't like it. It shouldn't be in the world or in the United States." So then he went on to say, first of all, I wouldn't want him on my team. That's in relation to Amici, when Le Batard asked him if he would accept a gay teammate. Then going on. And second of all, if he was on my team, I would, really distance myself from him because I don't think that's right. And, I don't think he should be in the locker room while we're in the locker room. I wouldn't even be a part of that. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's probably him trying to be politically correct.
So this is one of those things that features prominently on his Wikipedia page, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly, in any lens, even lens of 2007, not good.
No.
With the way things are. He has done his best to atone for that. He has changed his opinions on that over the time since then.
He has.
Yeah. And so it's not like this isn't one of those things where someone says, I apologize if anyone's offended. This is a situation in which he's actually taken concrete steps. And again, cynics will question why he's taken those concrete steps. But he has taken concrete steps since it was 2007, so in the 14 preceding years, to show that his opinion on this has changed. So it's entirely possible. Again, it's possible you could think those things ring hollow, but he at least has done stuff that makes a difference there. So I fully understand particularly with, unlike other sports Hall of Fames, no sports Hall of Fame has as many women in it as basketball.
That's true. That's very true.
Basketball has gone out of its way to celebrate women and the women's version of their sport.
Mm-hmm.
And a large number of those women, a much higher percentage of women in the WNBA than men in the NBA are identify themselves as being gay. So that may also have some degree of effect on it, whereas if he were going for the NFL Hall of Fame, not as many of the voters might care. Do you know what I mean?
Very good point. Very good point, yeah.
We all say that there's a very low bar for the NBA. It's not even the NBA. For the NBA Hall of Fame, that's a different thing. For the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Right.
And I joked with you, a couple weeks ago, the over-under on players who or people we didn't know who were getting in the Hall of Fame at 2.5, and you took the over.
I did.
But even given that, and I know he's a major part of Run TMC, and the other two members of TMC are in, C being Chris Mullins and M being Mitch Richmond, who again is another borderline candidate in my opinion. He probably deserves to go over the line. I'd still put Chris Webber in ahead of him.
I would too.
You would too?
Oh, definitely. Not even a question.
Yeah, and Webber has a tough enough time getting himself in there as well. So this probably does affect his ability to get in. I don't know how much, though, at this point, and how much, again, though, if you look at his Wikipedia page, it's like right there, like at the top. So I don't know exactly what effect that would have overall at this point, something said 14 years ago when he's at least outwardly made steps to walk that back and taking concrete steps to be an advocate for the gay community in many ways.
And I'm not going to say who it is in my life, but there is someone who is close to me who would have said this very thing in 2007 and has done a complete 180 since. And a lot of that is just from exposure and working with them. Nothing more than that. And there's a certain macho mentality, and I hate these two words together, but it does exist. Toxic masculinity. But which I'm sure Hardaway and a lot of elite athletes have gone through, especially in a locker room. I just watched yesterday this 1-hour documentary on Glenn Davis. No, sorry, not Glenn Davis. Glenn Burke.
Glenn Burke?
Yeah, I think I got the name right. Jesus, I just watched this. Let me make sure I have this right before I continue this story. Former Dodgers outfielder.
Okay.
All right, let's see if I got this name right. Yeah, I got it right.
Ball player.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, Glenn Burke. Glenn was the guy who, along with Dusty Baker, came up with the high five when he was with the Dodgers. And Burke was not the first gay major league player, but his teammates knew. And Burke struggled with that, as you can imagine he would. So this would have been in the late 70s, just trying to paint a picture of that. And his manager was Tommy Lasorda, who was not exactly known. I mean, this is the guy who threw out Youppi, who got Youppi thrown out of a game.
Yeah.
Although he was also excellent in his cameo in Fantasy Island. That also co-starred Walter. What was his name? The guy who played Radar.
Who played who?
Radar on MASH.
Oh, Gary Burkhoff?
Thank you. Walter, why did I say Walter? Walter was Radar's real name. Anywho. So I learned something from that documentary, because it turns out Glenn Burke used to hang out with Tommy's son, who was gay. But Lasorda never came out and said that. And then when people ask him, like, no. So he was just this old school macho mentality. Yet he still loved his son. It was an interesting relationship, but I don't want to say typical of that era, but something that you wouldn't necessarily see now. It's like, oh, you're gay, so what? I love you. Who cares? I mean, but back then, it wasn't. And Burke got traded, possibly because Lasorda found out that he was hanging out with his son. They might have dated, they might not have. I don't know. That wasn't really clear from the documentary. I don't think they really knew for sure, and why would they? So he was traded to Oakland, and Oakland got a new manager by the name of Billy Martin. So if you think Lasorda was an old school dinosaur, Jesus Christ. So Martin, So in the documentary, so they got these old clips from Burke on a talk show after he came out, because it came out in '84, and then he died a year later from complications of AIDS. Burke said that when the new A's came during spring training, Martin introduced him as, well, here's my outfield, and then used the F word.
Yeah.
So, that's sort of the type of thing you're looking back then. Did things necessarily change up until then? And just to put it more in perspective, Hardaway was long retired in 2007.
Right.
So we're only a decade away from that type of mentality in the same geographical area, because he had his heyday in Golden State. So it's not that permeable. And then I'm sure a lot of people people change, they evolve. I guess what I'm trying to say is Hardaway changing his tune because he wants to be embraced by basketball? And it did work somewhat. He was an assistant coach not that long ago. I don't know if he still is. But But I'm also the type of glasses half full guy. I want to believe that he does think differently now.
From what I can tell, I mean, and I clearly neither of us know Tim Hardaway personally, but from what I could tell, it seems like he has genuinely looked at it, changed his mind, and has become an advocate. Like, he hasn't just, like, he had a change of mind and then took concrete steps based on his change of mind. And again, anyone who's taking actual concrete steps deserves credit for that. Whether or not they're genuine or not, I can't tell. But I don't think that should keep him out as much as just everybody else who's on the list this year. Like, how many people are they letting in? There's clearly Pierce and Bosch.
Well, they don't have a pattern. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but even then, it's clearly Bosch and Pierce. We already said we put Weber in first.
Absolutely.
Would you put Chauncey Billups in first?
Over Hardaway? No.
No? Okay. I'm just looking who else is on this list.
I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I mean, I wouldn't personally do it.
All right. How about Sean Marion?
I'd put Ben Wallace over. I think Ben Wallace is overdue.
Ben Wallace is the next word I was going to come up with.
Oh, okay.
Next name. I was just going down the list here. Yeah, so you put Ben Wallace. So there's 3. I'm just looking who else is on the list this year. Mark Jackson, I don't think was as good. Michael Finley, Dale Ellis, Marcus Camby. He's probably 4th or 5th on this list, right?
Camby's going to have some competition. I was going to say Camby's got some competition is now with Mike Conley as who's going to be the best player ever not to ever be an All-Star.
Interesting.
Because any GM would be happy to have any one of those guys in their starting 5 for a decade.
True. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I know we brought him up. We brought up Schilling. The other one, of course, you brought up. He can't keep his mouth shut. Is Roenick.
Jeremy Roenick. Yeah.
Another Boston boy, very outspoken. The Hockey Hall does weird stuff too. So it's hard to tell exactly where Roenick actually is in their pecking order. So I'm not sure because I mean I'm going to Hockey Hall hockey reference here. I'm trying to figure out how many people because we've done this before months ago at this point.
Yeah, Roenick's got the stats to be in there. He also is not exactly one that would stand out if he was ever omitted. For those unaware, Roenick did a couple things really stupid, which is why he's on the outside looking in, or at least you and I believe that. There's not going to be a Hockey Hall of Fame class in 2021. So he was fired from NBC Sports in February. I'm just bringing back the article up, and I don't know that he necessarily should have been fired for it. But this was probably the tip of the iceberg. Or it might have been one of those things where sometimes you just have that excuse and you're trying to get rid of somebody, and then it was like, okay, here it is.
Right.
And that might
kind of what happened with Milbury, honestly. Mike Milbury when he finally got let go.
Yeah, exactly. Because that was a stupid thing for him to get let go over, I thought.
Yeah, I mean that was that on the scale of things, that was very, very minor, but it's almost like in soccer terms, like, dude, this is your 6th foul. I have to give you the yellow card. Like that's just kind of what happens. Like you'll see sometimes if you watch an EPL game, you'll see the referee like counting 3, 4, and then they'll have numbers up and then give you the card, even if it's not bad because they've been counting how many stupid fouls you've made. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what happened in Milbury. I kind of feel Roenick's was worse, but again,
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, so with Roenick, it was specifically during an interview. I was on a podcast called Spit and Chicklets. So he referenced a coworker and someone who was a good friend of his wife, Catherine Tappan, and he referenced how attractive she was, and then just said, hey, and joked about, oh, you never, like when they went all on vacation together, hey, maybe we had a threesome. Not the smartest thing he ever could have said. And not very respectful, but probably something he probably joked with her in person. Possibly. Don't know.
Possibly. Catherine Tappan is awesome. She started on Nesson on the Bruins stuff. So I've seen her for decades at this point. She's really, really good.
Okay. And so he got let go for that. But that's one thing. It's quite the other, where he could have let that go, but no, he decided to, I don't know where the suit went. He filed a suit based on straight discrimination. I didn't actually check to see whether this ever got thrown out. I hope it did. I
have no idea. Yeah, I'll check right now while we're talking.
Yeah, so he sued, or filed a lawsuit that he was fired essentially because he was straight.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure that's going to happen at some point in time. I'm sure it's already happened somewhere. This isn't it. This just isn't one of those examples. It's like this week, and I said this on the show I do with Andrea Tessman, how the hell did this go to number one? I ended it by talking about, sort of like ranting briefly on Madonna, who said how she's a victim of the patriarchy and how she's being silenced. You're Madonna. You're not being silenced. There are victims.
Sorry, not to go political, but it's like all those guys after what happened in January going on Fox News saying that they can't speak anywhere, and they're on Fox News 4 times in a week.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you're actually there on national television, okay, then I guess your censorship really isn't working. So, yeah, there are so many victims of sexism, but Madonna, let's be honest, you're not it.
Mm-hmm.
But
as far as I can tell, Roenick's suit is still ongoing.
It's still ongoing. Okay. So
he filed it last summer, so it just may not have made it through with the way COVID's going. So,
you're the legal analyst of this show. Does this have a leg to stand on?
I mean, nothing has a leg to stand on until someone actually has something happen. I think this is a pretty weak case to set a precedent on for something like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly something that, if said in my workplace, would certainly get me in trouble. And I don't think if it were said by a woman in my workplace that she may have had a threesome on vacation with a female coworker, it would get her in trouble too. So I don't think that this is a case that would ever set precedent like that. I think it is possible that there could be a situation in which somebody was fired for their sexual preference. This is not that case.
Oh, I'm sure it's already happened somewhere. I can't think of one.
Oh, yeah.
But why would I? It's not something that I search on Google every day.
What kind of SJW are you?
Well, there you go.
But I mean, to be fair to Roenick's candidacy, at least, now he's been retired for 12 seasons at this point, and of all the players who are retired and eligible for the Hall, so that takes out Jaromir Jagr, who's second in points.
Mm-hmm.
He is number 2 on the list of points who are not in.
Behind Turgeon?
Number 1, of course. Yeah, behind Turgeon. Turgeon is my guy, right? So Turgeon's got 1,327 points. Roenick's got 1,216, so 111 less. And then right behind him is Bernie Nichols with 1,209. And then Vinny Damphus, Rod Brindamore, Danny Alfredson, and going down from there. So just on points, he's got a legitimate argument of getting there. He's still behind Turgeon, and we all think that Alfredson's going to get in probably before him too. I'm surprised Rod Brind'Amour had more support, honestly.
I am too.
I don't know.
Why do you think Brind'Amour doesn't get a lot of support? I mean, like, he played for a high-profile American team.
And he was a general manager that has a Stanley Cup for what he's done.
And
right?
Yeah, and now Brind'Amour's got, well, he makes a lot more sense than Guy Carbonneau.
Oh, certainly, but I could give you a list of 42 people that could make more sense than Guy Carbonneau.
Yes, you could.
No offense to Guy Carbonneau.
No.
Like, he's just not. Yeah. Anyway, they just really love that 98 Dallas Stars team.
99
Dallas Stars. You're right. I apologize. Screw that 98 team.
Well, I was just living in the Toronto area then, so that was like I remember all the Sabres hype. Pretty close to that.
That putting a crease call is still ridiculous. So, I'll be through it later.
Oh my God, yes. So I guess we should move on to Evan's Death Watch, or do we want to do Evan's Non-Sportsman of the week?
Yeah, we decided that's a good name for it. Let's save that for the end because that's kind of fun.
Okay.
We don't have the biggest list anyway of people who passed away this week, and there's one other thing I do want to bring up too before we got there, or before we get to the end.
Yeah.
But let's just go through the people who passed away this week. I already said that the Beige Mistress was quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple people. Let's start internationally who passed away. Fausto Grassini passed away, 2-time world championship at Grand Prix motorcycle racer. He was a champion in 85 and 87. He died at the age of 60 from COVID on the 23rd. But he was active from 83 to 94, and one of the great motorcycle racers of all time. He only had 132 starts, but he had 21 wins and 47 podiums, which is pretty impressive for the way that Grand Prix racing goes for motorcycles. So, he was only 60 when he passed over this week. Also, Atsushi Miyagi, who was at least one of the two first Japanese players ever to win a Grand Slam tournament, when he and his partner Kosei Kamo won the doubles title in the 1955 U.S. Open. Kamo died back in 2017. And we were wondering, I actually didn't have time to look this up, if that was they were the first Asians to win a Grand Slam title.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a chance to pick that up. It'd be interesting to figure that out. But anyway, he also won the 1962 gold in the Asian Games held in Jakarta. So, he passed away at the age of 89. No cause of death given. You make it 89, anything can happen, right?
Right.
We also lost a couple of people from football. Doug Wilkerson, who was a guard mainly for the San Diego Chargers, although he did play for the Houston Oilers for 1 year. 3-time Pro Bowler, first-team All-Pro in 1982, second-team All-Pro in 79 and 80. He's in the Chargers Hall of Fame and a member of their 40th and 50th anniversary teams. He passed away at the age of 73. We also had Art Michalek, who was a linebacker and a guard, All-Pro in 53 for the San Francisco 49ers. He also played for the Steelers. And also, after he retired, after only 4 years, he became a professional wrestler and formed a tag team with 49ers player Leo Nomalini. It was nicknamed Boom Boom Michalek, and won 3 National Wrestling Alliance championships.
Oh, okay.
So, but he passed away at the age of 91 earlier this week. From the world of baseball, We lost Stan Williams, who's a pitcher mainly for the Dodgers. Well, pitched for the Dodgers, Yankees, Indians, Twins, Cardinals, and Red Sox. Then became a coach. He was a member of the 1959 LA Dodgers World Series team and a coach on the 1990 Cincinnati Reds staff when they won the championship. Two-time All-Star, both times in 1960 because they had the 2 All-Star games for those 3 years. But went 109 and 94 and 3.48 ERA, which makes me think that he just didn't have very good offensive support behind him. But yeah, I was a pitching coach, and it was around from was in the majors from 58 to 99, a long career between coaching and everything else. He passed away from cardiopulmonary illness, so meaning basically he probably had a heart attack. What that translates into. Then 2 people from the world of music: Gene Taylor, who was a guitar, piano, all sorts of stuff, but mostly piano. Played with Big Joe Turner, T-Bone Walker, Canned Heat, the Fabulous Thunderbirds. It's entirely possible that he was one of the victims of the power outages in Texas. So he was found dead in bed by his housemate after they were without power during that time period. So it's not confirmed, but he did pass away during the power outages in Texas. He was only 68. And finally, the lead singer of the Five Stair Steps, So lead singer of the Five Stair Steps, James Burke, passed away at the age of 70 from pneumonia. They are, of course, best known for their song, "Ooh, Child, Things Are Gonna Get Easier," which was number 402 on Rolling Stone's number 500 Greatest Songs of All Time. But yeah, he passed away earlier this week at the age of, I believe he was 70. So I
think that was used in one of the Guardians of the Galaxy, too.
I'm sorry?
I think that was used in one of the Guardians of the Galaxy. That's
entirely possible. I could click on the song. Hold on, let's see here.
Pretty sure it was. I just don't remember whether it was 1 or 2.
Cover versions. Popular culture. Let's see. Scandal, Guardians of the Galaxy. There you go.
There you go.
Peter Quill sings a song while performing a dance-off to distract Ronan the Accuser.
Yes.
It's impressive. Also, in the 1979 film Over the Edge, it's the closing scene. It's a song being played in the closing scene of Over the Edge.
I wonder how much the royalties they make for that.
I have no idea. There's also Boys in the Hood.
I gotta watch that movie again.
Yeah, me too.
So you earlier you said that, or before we went on the air rather, we wanted to talk a bit about someone who's probably not going to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but his opinion I think legitimately matters. Dee Snider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dee Snider. I was talking about the nomination of Iron Maiden, and essentially all the guys in Iron Maiden are like, if you elect us, we're not coming, essentially. And people were like, well, come on, if you get elected, whatever, and Dee Snider was there to back him up. And his direct quote is that the people who are in charge of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominating committee are arrogant, elitist arseholes.
Mm-hmm.
He said the Rock and Roll Hall committee members are arrogant, elitist arseholes who look down on metal and other bands that sell millions because we're not their definition of cool. The fan vote is throwing a bone to the peasants. I want to say F you, but I want them to have to deal with us. So it's hard to argue with it.
No, it really is. He's not wrong. You and I have talked countless times on how heavy metal or just hard rock in general is looked down upon. And while we know that there's some people in there who don't feel that way, Tom Morello being one of them, it's still an institution that was created by a music critic magazine.
Right.
So, and the critics never really liked hard rock, heavy metal music. Very, very rare when that happens. So if Iron Maiden does somehow get in, I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to be voted in. Not that we really know, again, who all those voters are, but you have to assume that, A, the ones we do know are actual inductees, a lot of which probably aren't big on metal to begin with, and B, a lot of the other ones are writers.
Right.
So
someone else had responded to him that the Rock Hall was catering to the masses, and Dee Snider said if they were catering to the masses, they'd have the biggest selling band. Corporate rock bands that sell tens of millions are ignored because they aren't cool. The fact is, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is struggling. Was it crowded when you were there? It wasn't when I went.
Was it crowded when you went there?
Oh no, that's what he said.
No, I know, but I'm asking you.
I've been there twice, but not since the last time I was there was 2009. And it wasn't particularly crowded that day. 2005, when I was there, it was more crowded, and then wasn't.
I think it was.
But I haven't been there since. So
yeah, I think for me it was 2012. It wasn't particularly crowded that day.
Yeah.
It wasn't empty either, though.
No. It's a cool place.
I thought
if you have a chance to go to Rock and Roll, it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Even the bands that aren't in, they have all sorts of awesome stuff. But yeah, I don't think Iron Maiden's getting in. Bruce Dickinson, famous for saying that if he were ever inducted, he'd refuse, that they won't be having his corpse in there. So I don't think they have to worry about that, honestly.
No.
I know they're nominated for the first time this year, but with the quality of nominees, they are going to get overlooked. One, because metal doesn't do well, and two, they aren't the best metal band who's not in the hall.
Mm-hmm.
So they need the Priest to get in first.
They do. They really do. That's probably... Yeah, so they're not going to happen. They're also not playing the game. And whether or not the voters care about that, some might not. Don't know. The committee sure does. So they're a surprising nominee.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, I don't. It's just interesting because we've had this whole conversation. But Dee Snider, I know. I mean, Twisted Sister's never getting in.
No.
But Dee Snider has become an influential voice through his radio show in rock.
Mm-hmm.
He's become a very influential voice. And he's one of those people, he always showed up on those I Love the 80s things VH1 used to do and things like that. But he's become very much an influential voice in rock, much more so than he was just a former front man of an 80s glam band, right? So when he says something at this point, more people listen than they would if he had just faded into obscurity. I don't know how the Rock Hall is probably in an unwinnable position anyway.
True.
Just because there's no real, except for record sales, and I guess number one singles, there's no real way to judge taste, right? So no matter who they nominate, somebody's going to be upset about it. But there's some obvious blind spots that they have that they don't seem to be on the verge of closing anytime soon.
There was one, as I'm looking at this one article that sort of talked about that. This was on loudersound.com. Last week, one of the former members of Iron Maiden, guitarist Dennis Stratton, urged fans of the metal legends to cast their votes for Maiden. I'm here to tell you, don't bother. Because it doesn't matter.
No.
There's no point in voting on anything. It's collecting data, which, I mean, like, some people might have a problem with that, some people don't. But at the end of the day, you're not actually influencing anything. It does nothing.
Correct.
As we saw last year, as we've seen other years, and even when it just happens to coincide, it just all made sense. Like it was like when, like who was it? A few times they've had someone who got in, but it was also a band that had never been nominated before.
Kiss won it once.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while though, whoever won the online vote, Journey won it, Kiss won it. Like a whole bunch of them got in.
Yeah.
For a while, and then the last few years, it hasn't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dave Matthews Band won it last year, didn't get in, it didn't even get nominated again this year.
No, absolutely. So it just shows what they consider this. It's just a way to collect clicks. That's not a bad thing. I mean, that's what websites are supposed to do. But just recognize it for what it is. If you think that your vote matters, it doesn't.
Yeah. It would be cool if whoever won the fan vote whoever is the highest person on the fan vote who isn't elected by the hall should get in as like the fan choice.
Or something where they're at least saying, well, this will count for X amount of votes. But they can't even give you that because they're not even telling you how many votes it is. It's like if baseball were to do that and just say, okay, well, this now counts as a 10% swing. Actually, that would be interesting. That'd be very interesting.
That might actually get Shaughnessy to resign in disgust. You could only hope.
That could be that. Wow, I've just stumbled across something that I think I might want to propose. Huh.
I'm with you, man, on that one. So I don't know. But anyway, yeah, this is interesting because Dee Snider was very vocal this week. So I just want to bring that up. One other thing I think we should mention briefly, it seems as though, according to his wife, Albert Pujols is going to be retiring.
Yeah, well, probably a few years later than he should.
He has a lot of millions of reasons not to.
That's very true. That's very true. Wait, so that came from his wife?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
His wife posted on Twitter.
His wife does a lot of his talking for him, doesn't she?
Yeah, his wife and his bat.
It's about wife and his bat, yeah. I just remember her being really upset with the Cardinals when they didn't offer him. I said, well, it was your time to pay up. I might be putting words into her mouth because it might not have been what she said specifically, but it was that type of gist. And hate to say it, the Cardinals were completely right. The Angels have a giant yoke of a contract. I don't know if that really helped with turnstile gates and ticket receipts. I don't think so.
Yeah, at this point, probably not.
No. Well, I mean, this year.
And that's money they could be spending on pitching so they can get Mike Trout to the playoffs.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at what he's got here. So, like, Albert Pujols was sort of like flirting with. He's been up and down going through that 100 in B WAR. He's been over it. He's been under it. He's been over it. He's been under it. He's currently over it. I'm just looking at his last few years with that. Justin WAR. Okay, so he had a minus 0.1 in the COVID year, minus 1.9 in 2017. Then he was up a bit. He really hasn't been effective since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, nevertheless.
So his position amongst position players in WAR: 2005 first, 2006 first, 2007 first, 2008 first, 2009 first, 2010 first. Like, that helps.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm trying to knock him not being in the Hall of Fame. He definitely belongs there. He definitely should be there.
Definitely a first ballot.
Oh, for sure. But now he's he's a bit of a liability. But let's see where he can go from here. So, like, what are reasonable numbers for him to finish off with? So here we're going to have he's already a 600 home run guy. So he's 662. He gets another 675 would be a nice number. He's not going to hit 38 this year. That's not possible. Here's an interesting...
Yeah, he's already at 32 homers. Sorry, 3,200 hits.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, there's really nothing that he's going to sort of eclipse in terms of little minor plateau that I can see. I just want him to stay over 100.
Yeah.
In B-War. What is he at now? 100.7.
Right. If he scores 57 runs, it'll be over 1,900, but that's really about it. Even everything else is way. It's not going to catch in the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
4 triples gets him to 20 for his career, but he hasn't had a triple since 2014.
Yeah, that's not happening. And he's not going to get that lifetime batting average back over 300. He's at 299. He's coming off an OPS of 665. Ouch.
Yeah, he hasn't hit 300 since he was in St. Louis.
Yeah. But, Albert Pujols, I wish him nothing but the best for this year. I really do. What do you think comes next for him? I don't see him in the broadcast booth, though.
I have no idea. I just absolutely no idea. He kind of came out of nowhere. He's a 13th round draft pick. Really only drafted as a favorite to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And he's up as a first ballot Hall of Famer. So, I mean, he could just fade back into obscurity or hang out or do whatever he wants, really.
He can do cameo.
He can do cameo.
You know what I did? I wasted, I just wanted to take a break from writing stuff for the site. So I just watched a bunch of bad cameos. And
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. We could just do a whole show, Evan. That actually might be a show right there. We just listen to fringe Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers cameos. That's a show right there. And then, yeah, you like that idea?
You got 2 many more weeks like this. We may need to do that.
We might. Well, this is not a bad show. We've come up with something.
No. I'm just saying not much is going on. Unless you want to talk about Peacock's reminding me today that Punky Brewster is being rebooted, where she's a single mom of 3 kids, but still all punky. So
I think that she's this since she's this plucky single mom. Should it be like Spunky Brewster?
Who knows?
Yeah.
In the words of Ed Asner, you got spunk. I hate spunk.
And spunk has this interesting dual meaning, but we don't want to go there.
Yes, I hope that man lives forever, by the way. Ed Asner is one of the funniest people ever, and he's great to follow on Twitter, just by the way.
Oh, okay.
Not many people that are 90, it's great to follow on Twitter. Ed Asner is one of them.
You know, I think I know how we're going to have our dual close for the show, because we figured out now we're going to end each show with your Anti-Sportsman of the Week. I think we should follow that with Kirk's cameo find.
Fine, let's go for it.
Yeah, the one I watched, one of the ones I watched, which won't be the cameo find, Kurt Schilling looks like he's doing it from his basement in a bunker, and just like where he's hoarding all sorts of things, and he might be preparing for the apocalypse. I'm not sure, but it's possible.
Well, good for him.
Yeah. Nice. All right, so who is the Anti-Sportsman of the Week?
I think this one is pretty easy. So one of my running, I guess, gags, bits, whatever, even though it's not a bit because it's true, is that it'd be great if the people in charge of baseball actually like the sport of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Well, former president CEO of the Seattle Mariners, Kevin Mather, or I don't care what the hell pronounce his last name, made the mistake of telling, I believe it was a Rotary Club of Bellevue, Washington, because why not? What he really felt about the sport. And he's an asshole. There's no better way to say it. Like, he is just an absolute ridiculous jerk. Like, what possibly did he expect to get out of that? Particularly talking to the Bellevue Rotary Club.
I don't know. Laughs, I guess? Was it worth it, Jerry?
I don't know.
Do you have some of the quotes of some of the things he said?
Yeah. So, for instance, we just rehired Iwakuma, which is speaking of one of their pitchers. He was a pitcher with us for a number of years. Wonderful human being. His English was terrible. Wanting to get back into the game, he came to us. We quite frankly wanted him as our Asian scout interpreter. What's going on with the Japanese league? He's coming to spring training. And I'm going to say I'm tired of paying for his interpreter. Whereas a player, we'd pay Iwakuma X, but we'd also have to pay $7,500 or $75,000 a year to have an interpreter with him. His English suddenly got better. His English got better when we told him that. Then we went to minor league outfielder Julio Rodriguez, who's a number 9 overall prospect in Major League Baseball. Okay, he's got a personality bigger than all of you combined. He's loud. His English is not tremendous. Talked about another one of his top prospects, Jared Kalenic and Logan Gilbert will likely not start the season of the club so they could manipulate their Major League service time. Like, I know, just like Kyle Seager, who's going to, he said that he would be a future Mariners Hall of Famer, but he's overpaid, despite the fact that if you go to Sports Track, he's massively underpaid. He got made $100 million and gave the Mariners $147 million worth of value for his contract during that time. It's just like he was ripping on their best prospects, he's ripping on their coaches, he's ripping on their best players. Like,
it's so
clearly
dumb.
Hated his job. Like, here's a question for you.
Sure.
Are the Mariners the worst team in sports?
Are they the worst team in all of sports?
Yes.
I don't think they're the worst team in all of sports.
Who's worse than they are?
Oh, God.
They haven't been to playoffs since 2001.
Okay. So
last time in the playoffs, Griffey was on their team.
Let's see. I'm sure there's a worse team in all of sports. Right now, it's my favorite hockey team, the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, but the Senators have at least been to a Stanley Cup Finals.
This is true.
In the last decade.
This is true. Seattle is, I believe, the only team in baseball that has never been to a World Series. Period. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yeah, because the Nationals. Although I do have to say, I did see a stat about the Rockies the other day, which floored me. It was since the Rockies joined the National League West in 1993, they have 0 division titles. The Atlanta Braves have 1. The Atlanta Braves have more National League West division titles since the Rockies joined the National League West than the Colorado Rockies do.
Yeah, I saw another one that sort of blew my mind today, too. Tom Brady has as many Super Bowl rings as an NFC player as Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees.
He also has more NFC Championship wins at Lambeau Field than.
Holy shit! Yes, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Damn. But yeah. But going back to this guy. I think what gets me the most, it's like what he said it's not even close to the worst things you've ever heard an executive say. It's just like, why are you just making this public in such a low rent forum where you know what's going to get out? Like, why?
As someone who's been a member of multiple Rotary clubs, the Rotary does, just so for those of you who may be listening around the world and are unsure what Rotary does, Rotary is a civic organization that tries to do good works within their community. They're also largely responsible for the eradication of polio. That was one of the first things that they rallied behind, and they are very much hoping that polio will be gone worldwide. They're now down to just 2 countries, I believe. It's Pakistan and Afghanistan are the only 2 countries that still have polio at this point. And largely that was done by the Rotary Club. So they're a civic organization that has nothing to do with baseball. It's like a whole bunch of either retirees who want to do good for the community or local business owners who take like an hour a week and then like help organize charitable organizations within their town. Like this isn't some like, I don't know, sports writers group or anything. Like nothing he said. First of all, I don't know why I was talking to him in the first place. But like nothing he said has anything to do with what their charter is or what they're doing.
No, it sounded like he wanted to be heard. Like one of those guys that just like, let me tell you a story. So,
yeah, but I mean, he also though has like multiple sexual harassment claims that the club paid out thousands of dollars to settle throughout his career at the club, and every time he was promoted, there were more harassment claims, and he just kept getting promoted. Like,
oh man, I don't know. It's you're right though. It's clearly someone who just didn't like what he was doing.
But again, someone in charge of a baseball operation who clearly doesn't like the sport. Like these are all the people in charge, not sexual harassment stuff aside. These are all the people who are in charge of these things. People who should care and don't.
No, it's not going to change anytime soon, unfortunately.
The sport's going to die. It's absolutely going to die.
I don't know how the only way it can sort of fix itself, again, is if it stops hating itself. There's just like for the sort of like the sports nerd, just the stats and all that. It's an intoxicating sport in that way. It really is, but its ability to attract young fans, I think a lot of great athletes go into it because it's a sport that you can make the most money in and not put your body on the line to nearly the same degree. Like you've got you've got 2 kids. I would imagine that if they were to go into a sport and they were like really excelling at something, what would you push them in?
Right. I get that part. But here's the problem with their business model, because you brought up their biggest issue. Mm-hmm. Their biggest issue is that they're all about the history and the numbers.
Yep.
And then allowed a situation to happen in which the numbers became irrelevant. And the people who now hold those numbers are pariahs.
That's true. That's very true.
So how can you hold yourself up where the numbers are the thing, and the people who rule those numbers are the problem?
You can't. It's something that they can't possibly reconcile with themselves.
1994 destroyed baseball.
I think a lot of the whole 90s sort of did.
But no, it was 94. Yeah, that 94 strike meant that 95 the Braves won and nobody cared. 96 the Yankees won and nobody cared. And they're like, oh crap, now what? And they just basically, I don't want to say incentivized people to take steroids, but certainly didn't bother them that people are taking steroids. Remember all the chicks dig the long ball commercials with the Braves pitchers that are going on?
Yeah,
John Smoltz couldn't get anyone to look at him because chicks dig the long ball. Like, all this was happening, and they knew it was happening, and the writers knew it was happening, and the managers knew it was happening, and the commissioner knew it was happening. And until Congress got involved for their own stupid, selfish reasons, nobody cared. And then the performance in front of Congress was awful, but this all goes back to this 94 strike.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if a lot of people even remember like how long that strike lasted. The 95 spring training was actually replacement players. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like, which was crazy that they were even going to try that. But they did, yeah. Baseball really, really shot itself in the foot. Badly. It still has.
And the people who were who were there at the time are now sitting in judgment of those who they enabled. And it's just like, I always bring up the curly-haired boyfriend, but they're way too, like, he is the typical person in charge of baseball now. Mm-hmm. It's all a money game, and there's no joy involved. And that's the other problem with the sport. They've taken out most of the action. This is the Red Sox and Yankees' fault more than anything. Blame and Billy Beane. Blame the Greek god of walks, Kevin Youkilis, even though he's not Greek, right? But Kevin Youkilis looked at like 5 pitches at bat. But the difference is Kevin Youkilis put the ball in play a lot, even though he walked a bunch. The Red Sox likely designated hitter this year, maybe first baseman Bobby Dahlbeck, struck out 57% of the time he was at the plate last year. 57%.
I miss the triple. I miss stolen bases.
Yeah. Did they learn nothing from Bull Durham? Strikeouts are fascist. Like, I love pitchers who can get strikeouts. But right now it's home run or strikeout. Willie McGee would not play. Right?
I don't know why that's making me laugh so much, but it just is.
Like, I loved Willie McGee, even if he was, as I've often said, looked like the African-American version of Don Knotts. But Willie McGee was like a slap singles hitter who would steal bases. Like, he was so fun to watch, Willie McGee. He's never going to be a Hall of Famer, but he was a multi-time All-Star. He's a really, really good player. There's nobody like that anymore.
No, there's nobody like that. There's nobody marketable, period. There's no character.
There are marketable people, but they don't market them.
Who would you, okay, so...
Mookie Betts is super marketable.
Okay, so...
Clayton Kershaw is super marketable.
Who else? If you're running Major League Baseball marketing, and they come to you and they say, okay, Evan, we want you to focus on 5 people who are going to be the face of the game. So you've given me 2. Who's your other 3?
Fernando Tatis Jr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
You just signed a massive contract. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's Francisco Lindor, who the Indians are assholes for getting rid of. Mm-hmm. And probably another pitcher. I'd have to think who the other pitcher would be.
Not Trout. You wouldn't try to sort of find, just give him a personality in flux or just something. Because as we were doing this, right, I've got basketball in the background, and they just had a Kevin Durant commercial. Durant doesn't speak. Mm-hmm. Well, I think anyone who's ever heard Durant speak would know why you don't want him speaking in a commercial. He's a charisma vacuum. He's not a very interesting person. But when he's playing, you can't take your eyes off of him. So, do you just come up with something for Trout? Would he not be a 5th guy?
problem is Trout has all the personality
of a trout,
of a pizza box after you've taken out like the greasy pizza. Like, get yourself a big New York style pizza, which is not that good. I'm sorry, New York. You guys are super proud of it, only because you haven't eaten pizza anywhere else. But you get the pizza out of there, and there's just like this lake of grease that like bakes its way into the bottom of the cardboard. That has more personality than Trout.
Okay, so he's not number 5.
No, he should be, but he just is
there.
I don't know. It's like he lost his tongue in a duel. Like I don't know what to do with it. It's just there's nothing to do. But here's the problem, though. Again, as soon as anyone starts hitting home runs, the way they've set this up now is, what's your first thought?
Oh, I mean, like when they're just like belting home runs all the time?
Yeah.
Well, my first thought isn't. No, it's not. No, it's not. My first thought's not PEDs. Only is if they suddenly become a home run hitter at age 33.
Right. I don't know what we're going to do about baseball. I really love it, although I hate my team at the moment. Just 2 years ago, there was a book written about the greatest outfield in baseball, which again was hyperbole of Betts, Benintendi, and Bradley. And now, not even 3 years later, all of them are gone. I don't know what's worse. The Indians trading Lindor is bad, but the Cubs and Red Sox pretending they're poor teams is ridiculous.
Yeah, the Jays just picked up Springer.
I know. Like, there's just so many teams pretending to be poor. And the salaries being given out for the vast majority of, like, even the middle-class players are going down. And it's all it's just not, baseball isn't fun anymore. It just isn't. It used to be fun. Now it's just like 3 hours of hoping somebody hits a home run.
It is very much like that, unfortunately. But
and at the same time, we're still not going to have any pitchers getting 20 strikeout games because none of them stay in long enough.
Oh, God, no. God, no. Getting a complete game doesn't happen.
The English Premier League is going to have better ratings than the normal English Premier League games got better ratings than the World Series within the next 5 years.
Ooh. Okay. Well,
I'm not saying MLS. MLS has got a long way to go.
No. I know you're not.
Yeah. But you could get almost any EPL game. Most of my weekends now. I mean, I've become a Leicester City fan pretty hard. We lost a bad game to the team this week. But, like, I could wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and watch 2-hour blocks of soccer games. They're done in, like, 2 hours. It moves the whole time. And while there may not be a ton of goals, generally there aren't that many 0-0 games where nothing happens. There are a few. There was one this week. But most of the time, there's a lot of action going back and forth. People always moving. They're trying different things. People rolling around to the ground crying even though nothing happened. At least something is going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, baseball, no, very much so.
Nothing happens for long periods of time. Like, there's no time in soccer where a player doesn't touch the ball for like a 5-minute period.
No,
in baseball, you can a fielder doesn't touch the ball the whole game.
That's very true. And sometimes they win a Gold Glove.
Yes, Rafael Palmeiro, first baseman.
Oh my God, that's one award that's got to be done away with. Is the Gold Glove. Yeah. Well, you know who votes on that? I don't know if it still is, but it's the managers who vote on the Gold Glove. I wonder if they just sort of like, they're not?
I said, oh, really? I didn't know.
Okay, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's who votes on it. And it makes me wonder if it's like the coaches poll and like in college football. And then, then I forget who it was, but someone came out and they found out that so-and-so didn't vote for a clear choice at number one. Like, oh, I didn't. Well, I had someone else do it. Because they have no idea what the hell they're doing. It's like they got better things to do than vote on a stupid poll that really doesn't have any real matter. Especially if their team's not really relevant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just wonder if they just had the Bat Boy do it. It's like filling out an all-star game. Like, who have you heard of? Okay, well, I'm going to vote for this guy. Oh, I know Palmeiro.
Yeah.
But anyway. So, yeah, I think we've come up with our new hammers. I kind of like it.
Sounds good to me.
All right, beautiful. So, a quick show. We, again, squeezed out an hour out of this lemon.
We are, in the words of Brian from Family Guy, now all we need is a midget with some gin. Anyway, just by the way I was quoting Family Guy, I know that the term midget is not the correct word to use. A little person with some gin, but still.
It was a quote.
Anyway,
I think it's.
It was a quote.
I think it's a quote. Yeah, I mean, if you were to say the M word, I think people would have been confused. We're not there yet as a society.
Yeah, they would have thought I meant Mariner.
Nice.
Sorry, I'm not their former president and CEO. I actually don't hate them. So, anyway, man, we should get out of here before we get ourselves in any sort of trouble.
Sounds good. All right, talk to you next week. Stay safe, everyone.
See you later.